Before satellites, before nukes, the ocean was the most dangerous battlefield on Earth. Down here, war had no borders, no front lines, only hunters and the hunted. Every ship that vanished, every convoy that never arrived, was part of a war no one ever saw, and few survived to tell. They called it the Battle of the Atlantic, but it wasn't fought in open seas. It was fought in silence, in shadows, in steel coffins, where men whispered to machines, and death crept in with every breath. A single ping could give you away. A single echo could end you. It was a war of ghosts, a game of patience and terror, where the only rule was, don't be found. This is the story of those who hunted beneath the waves, and the secret war the world tried to forget. The first war proved what submarines could do. The second would prove what they could become. When Hitler came to power, the world still believed the next war would be fought in the skies, battleships, bombers, and tanks. But beneath the surface, another army was being built. The Kriegsmarine, a fleet reborn from the ashes of Versailles, and at its heart stood one man, Karl Dönitz, a veteran of the old U-boat service and a believer in a new kind of warfare. He called it Rudel tactic, the wolf pack. Small, fast, silent. Striking at night in coordinated attacks, vanishing before dawn. His plan was simple. Starve Britain until it surrendered. No bullets, no invasions, just hunger. Every merchant ship that left America or Canada carried food, oil, and ammunition, the blood that kept Britain alive. And Dönitz meant to cut those veins. At first, the Allies didn't understand. Their ships vanished into the fog, their convoys torn apart by enemies they couldn't see. From 1939 to 1941, the Atlantic became a hunting ground. The Germans called it die glückliche Zeit, the happy time. For the men who lived it, there was nothing happy about it. Life inside a U-boat was a slow descent into madness. Hot, cramped, air thick with oil and sweat. Water dripping from pipes. Engines vibrating through the steel. No sunlight, no silence. Only the hum of machines and the smell of fear. Every dive felt like a burial. Every surface a resurrection. They were young, most barely 20. They believed they were invincible, wolves of the sea. But even the wolves didn't know what waited for them in the deep. The war for the ocean began with a whisper. Then it grew teeth. By 1940, the Atlantic had become a graveyard. Convoys stretched across endless water, slow, heavy, and blind. And somewhere out there, in the black between the waves, the U-boats waited. They hunted by moonlight, by radio, by instinct. A merchant ship's engine echoing through the deep was all it took to summon them. A single torpedo could sink a week's worth of supplies, and every sinking sent ripples through the Allied heart. The sea lanes that kept Britain alive were turning into killing grounds. Bread, oil, ammunition, everything that fed the war effort was vanishing beneath the waves. In London, Churchill called it the nation's greatest fear. The only thing that ever really frightened me, he wrote, was the U-boat peril. Because he knew, if the Atlantic fell, Britain would starve before America could save her. The U-boats struck in packs, 5, 10, sometimes 20 at once, surfacing in darkness, cutting through the night with the precision of assassins. The escorts fired back blindly, depth charges thundering through the black. But the ocean swallowed the truth. No one knew who lived. No one knew who died. Every sunrise brought wreckage, burned oil slicks, floating cargo, letters sealed in bottles, names erased from every record but the seas. To the Germans, it was victory. To the sailors who crossed those waters, it was hell. They called it the Battle of the Atlantic. But for the men who fought it, it was less a battle and more a slow, invisible, drowning. War was not only fought with torpedoes, it was fought with whispers, with numbers, with patterns no one was meant to see. While the U-boats prowled the Atlantic, another battle was unfolding, not in the water, but in the quiet rooms of Bletchley Park. A mansion turned fortress of minds. Mathematicians, linguists, chess players, men and women who stared into chaos and tried to find order. Their enemy was not made of steel. It was a machine, a small box of rotors and lights called Enigma. Every message the U-boat sent was scrambled by Enigma's code, a code so complex it could produce over 150 million combinations. Each day the settings changed. Each day the Allies began again. But inside that fog of impossibility, one man started to hear the rhythm beneath the noise. Alan Turing. Quiet, awkward, brilliant. He saw Enigma not as a puzzle, but as a conversation, waiting to be overheard. With machines of his own making, great clicking, spinning beasts of metal and logic, Turing began to pull meaning from the madness. Every intercepted message became a clue, a bearing, a name, a timing. Each fragment brought the hunters one step closer to becoming the hunted. At sea, new weapons emerged. ASDIC, the early sonar, sound waves echoing through the dark, turning the unseen into sound. A ping, a pause, an echo. The moment that echo came back, the moment it said, "Something is there," the silence shattered. Depth charges roared, steel screamed, and the ocean convulsed with thunder. This was no longer a one-sided war. It was a duel between sight and shadow, between the invisible and the patient. The U-boats still ruled the night, but for the first time the Allies could hear them breathing. Down here, sound is everything. Every creak, every drip, every breath feels like it could give you away. The air tastes like metal and diesel. It's thick, hot enough to sting your lungs. The pressure outside could crush a man in seconds, and when the enemy finds you, it tries. The sonar pings grow closer, then stop. That silence, that's when you know they've found you. A voice whispers through the control room, "Hold depth." Engines off. Men freeze where they are, sweat drips. A bolt rattles loose from the ceiling, then, boom. A depth charge detonates above. The entire hull groans like a dying animal. Boom. Another one. Closer this time. The lights flicker. Pipes burst. Water sprays in thin, hissing jets. Someone starts to pray. Someone else starts to laugh. A high, broken sound that doesn't stop. You can't fight back. You can only wait. Every explosion means you're still alive, because if you ever hear the one that kills you, it means you survived it. The noise becomes rhythm. The rhythm becomes madness. And then, as suddenly as it began, it stops. Silence. No one moves. No one speaks. Every man listens to the sea pressing against the hull, waiting to see if it will let them go. Minutes pass. Then an hour. Then the captain whispers, "Surface." The engines cough back to life. The steel beast rises through the dark. When the hatch finally opens, the night air tastes like freedom. Above them, the ocean looks calm, but it isn't. It's a graveyard, and they know it. By 1943, the ocean began to change its allegiance. What once belonged to the wolves now belonged to the hunters. The Allies had learned. They had listened. They had built new eyes and ears for the sea. Radar, sonar, long-range aircraft, tiny escort carriers bringing air cover to the convoys, floating cities of steel and vengeance. No longer were ships alone in the dark. Now they had wings above them. Searchlights cut across the waves, white beams stabbing through fog, catching periscopes in their glow. And in that brief flash of light, the U-boats were no longer ghosts. They were targets. New weapons followed. Hedgehogs, clusters of small bombs that exploded only on contact, punching holes straight through the deep. Lee lights, Blinding floodlights mounted beneath patrol planes, turning surprise into slaughter. And the codebreakers at Bletchley Park, they never stopped listening. They could now read the sea almost as well as those who sailed it. Convoys began to fight back, coordinated, disciplined, ruthless. When a U-boat surfaced, it was met not by confusion, but by fire. The hunters had become the hunted. For Dönitz and his crews, the ocean that once hid them had turned against them. Steel hulls cracked under the weight of their own creation. One by one, the wolves went silent, their final positions lost, their signals fading into the deep. The Battle of the Atlantic wasn't won in a day. It was bled out, slowly, painfully, until the predators vanished beneath the surface they once ruled. When it was over, the sea looked calm again, but beneath it lay thousands of ships, and thousands more souls that would never rise again. When the guns fell silent, the ocean kept its secrets. The war above was over, but beneath the waves, it never really ended. Thousands of submarines were scuttled, sent to the bottom by their own crews. No parades, no flags, just bubbles and silence. Each one a tomb, sealed in darkness, their names carved not on stone, but on the cold steel of their hulls. They rest there still, from the North Sea to the Caribbean, from Norway's frozen fjords to the quiet sands off the American coast. Time does strange things underwater. A cup left on a table, a photo still pinned to a wall, a watch stocked at the exact second the light went out. The sea preserved them, as if waiting for someone to remember. Decades later, divers began to find them, the ghosts of a war that refused to fade. Each wreck a frozen heartbeat, each echo a reminder of how thin the line was between hunter and hunted. We often speak of the heroes who flew and the armies who marched, but the men who fought beneath the surface were swallowed by the very element they mastered. They lived and died in silence, and the ocean still whispers their story, because the sea never forgets. It remembers every ship that sailed, every scream that sank, every breath that was taken away. And if you listen closely, beneath the hum of the deep, you can still hear them. The secret war beneath the waves. Today, sonar still hears their ghosts. Wrecks of steel lie scattered across the ocean floor, each one a monument to the men who vanished between the waves. Researchers send down drones and find cabins frozen in time, coffee mugs, photos, a single shoe on a rusted deck. Every discovery feels like a whisper from another world. But this story isn't only about loss. It's about what those men built, a brotherhood forged under impossible pressure, where courage meant more than survival. From the U-boat crews of Germany to the sailors of Britain, America, Japan, every flag that fought beneath the sea shared one truth. Down there, the ocean doesn't care who you are. It humbles everyone the same. And maybe that's why their story still matters, because in the silence of the deep, we see ourselves, our fear, our ingenuity, our will to endure. The war beneath the waves ended long ago, but the echoes, they never stopped.